Now, let's talk about our old mate each-way-Albo. This bloke is in a world of pain, a world of trouble. Now, due to the Labor Party leadership rules, it is very difficult to bounce somebody out without a very significant majority, not just 50+1, of his colleagues in the party room. This means that the left faction, which will stand behind him, and much of the others, will not be able to make a change before the election. But I have said this for months. I said it before COVID. I say it now towards the end of COVID. This bloke is in massive trouble. As we learnt in Queensland, it doesn't matter how bad your government is. If the leader of the government has an absolute country-mile lead over the opposition, we back in the leaders. Does that mean we are guaranteed of another term of the Morrison government in 18 months? Of course not. But you can't hide from these numbers. Now, polls can be wrong on 1 or 2 points, but are they really wrong to this extent? Where right now, according to the latest news poll that came out on Sunday, it's a 2-to-1 margin in favour of Scott Morrison as preferred Prime Minister. That's exactly the same margin that Palaszczuk had over Frecklington in Queensland. Just as devastating for Anthony Albanese, and I have talked about this so often that the people who put this poll out now don't put this out as frequently as they used to because it's bad news for Albanese. That a quarter of all Labor supporters think Morrison is the better Prime Minister. Only half believe it's Albanese, and apparently there's 1% missing because only 24% of people, they just don't know. How do you not know at this point in time? Now, Albanese isn't in a world of trouble because what we have called him as a nickname is absolutely true for how he has led the alternative government, each-way-Albo. We say it because he announces one thing on a Monday, contradicts it by a Tuesday, and then will pretend nothing to see here on Wednesday. Case in point, when Twitter was screaming that Scott Morrison, who went to the White House for that state visit with Donald Trump, apparently he should pick up the telephone and he should ring Donald Trump and say, it's all over, mate, that's it, put away the keys. That's what Albo was saying a couple of days ago.
He should be contacting President Trump and conveying Australia's strong view that democratic processes must be respected.
But after copping criticism from that, Albo literally today, each-way-Albo, is pretending he didn't say what you just saw him say.
Do you now regret or calling on the Prime Minister to phone Donald Trump to get him to concede?
No, I didn't suggest that ever. What I suggested was that Scott Morrison needed to show in some way, that was one way he could have done, show in some way, demonstrate support for our democratic principles.
Just to read your words back to you there, he should be contacting President Trump and conveying Australia's strong view that...
Yep, and he can do that in a number of ways, and he's done that.
So I didn't say it. Thanks for pointing out that I said it, but I didn't really say it. But now I'm going to say it again. Each-way-Albo. Only half of Labor supporters think he's the preferred Prime Minister by a margin of 2-1, 60-30. Australians know that we've got the right person leading the country right now, and this bloke is not going to be up to it. Now, for those that want to say, well, of course Paul Murray would be saying that, go back and have a look at the same polls for Bill Shorten going into the 2019 election. He didn't have a significant enough lead in Labor supporters. It was an early lead indicator about a lack of enthusiasm for the bloke. Now, can things turn around? Sure. Will the media do their bit after learning from their big brothers and sisters in the United States how to suppress information, how to pump up scandal? Sure. They'll go hell for leather. But unlike the United States, of course, we have compulsory voting. And quiet Australians will turn up again in 18 months' time, and then 3 years after that, and then 3 years after that, and then 3 years after that, and then 3 years after that. And quiet Australians are smart. They may well say that climate change is real, but are you willing to pay for it? No. Because they know that ultimately, if you unplugged every single thing in Australia, it would do nothing to global temperatures. They also know that under the Paris Agreement, of which we are a signatory, China can continue to grow its population, grow its pollution, And it's only at peak 2030 pollution that they start to get measured. But climate change and its politics is so hysterical. It is believed with the same fervour and purpose. And I'm not arguing against climate change, but the adherence to dramatic action on it is believed in the same fervour that many Australians believe in a higher power. But electorally, how many times does Australia need to send a message? But lefties, they're a little bit like toddlers. If they don't get what they want, they just get louder and louder and louder and louder until eventually they're the ones kicking the floor in the supermarket, hoping that their noise, you'll put them out of their misery and give them whatever the hell the toy or the chocolate was that they wanted. They ignore the results of the 2010 election, the 2013 election, the 2016 election, the 2019 election. And while I have disagreed so often with Joel Fitzgibbon, he can look at the scoreboard. And today he said, that's it, I'm done, I'm out. He decided to quit Anthony Albanese's front bench because, God forbid, when Albo was apparently standing in shadow cabinet today saying, look what happened with Biden, look what happened with Palaszczuk, they're both centre-left, we're centre-left, we're going to win the next election. Here's what Joel Fitzgibbon said after putting up with that garbage.
I've been focusing on blue-collar workers, where they'd be working in coal mining, coal generation, oil and gas, our manufacturing sectors, electricians and other tradespersons, the people who have traditionally voted for us in very large number, but somehow haven't been voting for us in large number over the course of possibly the last decade. And I've seen them come up to the polling booths in their high-vis, carrying LNP how to vote cards, carrying One Nation cards, and I asked myself, how did it all go so terribly wrong?
Because your party has become the one where the people who run it and support it in the media live in the areas where high-vis, the only time they see it is when somebody comes over to fix something at their house. They sneer at the people who get up early and go to bed late, and that's the only way they can make more money.